This will be our exercise for Wednesday. It comes from our workbook, our Microstation workbook, and it's in Chapter 5, page 25. It's an AccuDraw exercise that starts involving more curves and circles. We're actually going to draw this the way it's shown, and we're also going to do a front elevation of this plate. Kind of a quick and easy drawing, so we'll put a thickness on it as we get going and do the hidden lines and export it out to the sheet file, put the dimensions on it. We're also going to add some center marks, do some more things with some tangent lines. It'll be a little easier than the previous assignment, and just kind of put this plate together. So we'll go ahead and get started by opening up Microstation with the seed letter mechanical version 1. Just hit open. And again, the first thing we'll do is a file, save as, put this in our projects directory. It's going to be assignment 7. And hit save. So we'll use the default model to draw this. We'll again go up and make sure that our settings for our design file are set to inches. 2 decimal places should be fine, because that, according to the drawing that we see on the sheet, is only to 2 decimal places, so that should work out okay. Just say OK. And we'll go ahead and start our drawing. We want to be in our primary level. I'll use color white. I'm going to use line weight 2 just so it shows up better on the screen for you. And we're going to start on the bottom. We've got a line that is, figure what that radius is on the small one, is a 0.75 radius. So if we subtract 0.75 from 7, we'll end up with 6.25. Left click. Oops, I'm in Isometrics, so gotta unlock that. Must have stuck with my, I'm going to do a file save setting so it doesn't remember that. So we said 6.25 and left click. We'll kind of zoom in here so we can see things better. We've got a radius at the end that is 1.5 inches. So we'll just grab this endpoint. As I move my mouse straight up, I'm going to hit my tilde key, which is that eyebrow just above the tab key, and we're going to key in 1.5. If you go by the book, they want you to go change to arc mode, but it's just easier to do the toggle key with the tilde. Toggle with the tilde. Pull it straight up, 1.5, left click, and you're just going to take your mouse and swing that arc 180 degrees. Left click, and then right click. We'll start a new line now. I didn't really need to. I have to hit the tilde key again to drop it back in. So the next line is 3 inches minus 0.75. So this is going to be 2.25. Hit the tilde key. We have a 0.75 radius. We just want to run that 90 degrees. We can hit tilde again, and I'll pan up here a little bit. The height on the next one is 2.25 minus 2 radiuses of 1.5, which should be 0.75 left over. If I've calculated that right, tilde, pull it to the left, 0.75. Swing that arc 90 degrees. Hit tilde. The next one we have is 4 minus 1.5, which would be, what, 2.5. All I'm doing is subtracting those radiuses. Hopefully I'm getting my, hit tilde again, 0.75 is the radius on this one. right click and do a fit view so we can see the whole thing. Now we get 5.25 minus 1.5, two of the radiuses. So let's try a little bit of our calculator. We'll type in 5.25 minus 1.5 is 3.75. Hit our tilde key, we go over 0.75 to the right, and when we come back down it should touch right onto the end of that line. So there's the shape of our object. Over on the far right we've got a circle through this object that is a 1-inch diameter or a 0.5 radius. Now we can find the center point of this by just moving our mouse. You'll see that it will find the center point of that 180 degree arc by just moving the mouse in the area. With the E1 tool selected for our circle, we just go to that point, left click, and we're going to put in a radius now of 0.5, just like that. Over on the left side now we've got a box that is going to be offset 1.5 inches up and 1.5 inches over, that is going to be a 1x1 rectangle. Now we'll draw ourselves a couple little construction lines here. If I come straight, whoops, make sure I'm in smart line, straight down here, straight over here, and just trim these elements out using our 7.5 tool, gives me a starting point. Matter of fact, I can delete this one now. So we take our box tool, change it back to white, and I'm gonna do a tentative point right here, hit O, and I'm going over 1.5, move my mouse straight up, don't hit a left mouse button, 1.5. There's our 2-point offset, and then left click, and then we get a box that is 1x1. Just as easy as that. And again, we can close out or delete this original construction line. So we basically have our shape here now for everything that we've drawn. I want to also put in, and we'll put this under the construction level, some red lines that indicate the tangent points where these, or actually the intersection point where the curves stop, and these will be found, and what you do is just put this line straight out. Remember the indexing, it'll remember that point, so we're just going to put them out this far and then we'll extend them so you can see how it finds those index points. So when we get ready to dimension this, it'll be much easier to see those on the drawing. Once you get those in place, then come back in and we're going to extend those using our 7.4 tool. Just grab the end of it and we'll go up 0.4 or 0.35. There we go. 0.35. That way they'll all be the same. You have to key it in, it doesn't index that. It takes a minute, but it's going to make it look a lot better when we go to dimension it, a lot more readable. Oops, there we go. .35. Shift and pan. 0.35. Did I get them all? Yep. So now we'll change back to white. Line weight 2. And we'll come down and we're going to draw the front elevation like we're laying this plate down flat. So we'll just extend some lines down. So this is kind of outside the textbook, but we're going a little bit further than what they did. And we'll do a line across the bottom And we're going to make this a thickness of 1 inch. So we just copy this line with our 3-2 up 1. And we'll trim it out using the 7-5 tool. We're going to change the color green and line style 2. Take the Q1 Smart Line tool and just extend these lines straight down. And we've also got an edge back here that we want to bring down. And we'll use a tool called the IntelliTrim. We've used this before. It's 7/8 IntelliTrim. Just left click on this line and then hold your left mouse button and drag through all 4 of those or 5 of those lines. Do the same thing on the bottom with your IntelliTrim. Left click here, drag this through all 5 and it trims them out. What I'd also like to do here is go to color yellow, and I like to indicate all of the places where we might have a curve. Like right here, we'll do a smart line from this point down that indicates the edge of a curve or a tangent point. That's actually going to be a center line here, so we won't do that one. We've got one right here. These will show up as very light lines. We've got one right there. We've already got that one. That one should, actually one right there. And it lines right up with that one, so we don't need that one in there. And again, we'll do the smart trim. When this prints out, because the yellow is so faint, they'll just kind of show up as very thin lines in the background. This pretty much covers the object itself, so it's pretty easy to put that together. Let's go to our sheet file, 8.5 by 11. You can already see that it's in there. This should fit on here at least half scale, so we'll go to our reference tool. There's our default model. You can see it's at 1:8. Let's just try it at 1:2. Looks pretty good, and we'll move that onto the screen right about in the center. Way too easy. Okay, now we got we'll copy this up here. We'll move this note to the right, and we're going to edit the top text to top view. Excuse me. While I'm already in the edit, we'll go over to our orthographic exercise. We're going to call this one exercise DR 10-2, workbook exercise page 5-25. Scale is half scale. Change the date. It'll be 10/7. I'll just put CET120 in there. Do a fit view. Now let's look at our dimensioning. Dimensioning for this exercise will still be mechanical, but we'll make a few minor changes here. We want filled lines, 0.5 for our width. We want 2 for the minimum leader. Actually, let's go 1. Units, 2 decimal places. We probably don't have any angles, but we'll change that to 2 decimal places also. Text, all set. Geometry is all set. I think we're all set. We'll just hit the save tool, close this out. Excuse me. And we'll look at our dimensioning. First of all, we'll put the height on this elevation. It's going to be 1 inch. Looks good. We're going to put the overall dimensions now using our F2, which is linear dimensioning. So we're going to go from this point to the end of the circle. Make sure you're right out on the edge of it. 8.5. That is exactly right. And then we're going to have, we want all of the dimensions that they're showing. 7 inches to the center of the circle. We've got 1 inch. Actually, we'll do a from this point to this point. Ooh, 1.51. Wonder why that is. And this is 1. Let's try it from the bottom. 1.51. So we need to fix that. I'm going to go back to my model default. I'm going to take this box. I don't even need to select it, just do the 3, 2 move. Move it 0.01 in that direction and 0.01 in this direction. We'll go back to our title block and we'll try to dimension that again. See if that fixed it. Yep, 1.5. For some reason it was off by 1/100 of an inch, and it may have just been the resolution that we keyed it in at, but by going back and just remeasuring that, it works out fine. So yep. Okay, we've got some typical radiuses here now. When we start, well, let's finish our linear dimensioning first. So everything is going to match up. We have to use that second tool because we're going to 2 different elements. 5.25. We've got a width on the top. 4 inches. And with this tool we can go right to the next one, which is going to be to the center of the circle, 3 inches. And then we're going to have from this point to this point 2.25 inches. Okay, now we're going to go to do our radius dimensioning. So if I just left click on this, what I want to do is drop this down and click on center mark. Now the center mark itself I want to make sure is a certain size. So let's go to tools. I think this is under our dimension radius tools. Oh, dimensions. Radial dimensions. Under dimensions radial, you see center dimension. Center size should be, this is, let's put the center size in there at 0.25. So it'll be a 1/4 inch center mark. So now when we go back to F1 and do this dimension, yeah, it's a little too big. See how that's filling that 1 inch circle? So it's the leg of the center mark. So we go back to tools, dimensions, radial, center. Whoops, no idea what that is. Tools, dimensions, radial, dimensions, center. We're going to put it in at 0.125. Now let's try it again. F1, just left click on this arc, R, radius 1.5. Still gets awfully big, doesn't it? Close that out. We'll go figure out why. It's always a mystery. Tools, dimension, radial, dimension, center. Ah, didn't save it. 0.12. Now let's try it. Much better. It just gives us that crosshair in the middle. So when we dimension this radius, you'll see how it throws that center mark up there just like on the drawing. And we may have to do that in order to get that center mark to show up. We'll do it on all 4 corners. Matter of fact, I'm going to delete this one. I don't like crossing dimension lines if I can help it, so we'll bring these to the inside. Delete this one just because it looks better. We don't have to cross those. I may have to here. That one we'll bring outside. So we've got all our center marks. We've got all of our dimensions in place. Looking good here. We're going to come down to the front, and really isn't too much here other than the fact that we need to put some center lines, and line style 4 is your center line. We want to do this in red. So if I just start a smart line right from this point and bring it straight down through, and then I'll just use the extend element tool to bring it down to about here. Then I can use the copy tool, and really, is that the only... put center marks wherever these radiuses. Actually, that wouldn't even be the center mark would be right here, and center mark right there. So it kind of gives us an indication that there's a radial center mark at those locations. If we wanted to, we could do a cross section. We'll be looking at cross sections a little bit later on if we wanted to do a cut through this piece. And maybe that's not a bad idea, but I think for this part we've got Monday off. I'm going to try to get papers corrected so we can get caught up. I can get caught up on that stuff, and I think if you can get this in for Wednesday's class, it's a simple assignment that gives you a good break for the weekend. Again, review chapter 5 if you could. It is the drawing. They do give you some directions on how to go through this drawing. Let's go through now and just do the printing. So we'll do a Control P. We're going to go to File, select Bentley Driver. I'm going to go to my utility directory, select my printer, and then we're going to go to Pen Table, Attach, and we're going to select my pens. See, I've done it a couple times. 8.5 by 11. You look at your scale down here, 1 to 1, which is what you want to see, so that it prints it out at the half scale actually, but 1 to 1 on the paper. We hit print. We want to send this to our homework directory. It's going to be called Assignment 7 with my name. Hit save. Okay, we'll minimize this and we'll go take a look at it. File, open. I was already in PDF. Homework. There's assignment 7. And don't just look at it like this, kind of zoom in on it if you can. Check your line weights. You can see how my outside lines are nice and dark. My lettering is nice and dark so I can read it. Everything looks good. Come down to the bottom, you can see how those yellow lines in the background really show up really faintly, so we can see where these holes and whatnot are located. You notice we don't dimension to hidden lines, so that's a rule we want to make sure we maintain. Everything looks good on the bottom. If that's the case, you're going to dump this right in the Assignment 7 homework folder, and that should take care of you for Wednesday's class. Alright, thanks. Have a good weekend, long weekend. I'll see you next Wednesday.